Welcome to the State of Arizona Travel Policy Training, a presentation by the General Accounting Office, GAO. This course prepares you to apply travel policy when traveling, making travel arrangements for others, or approving others' travel. Go ahead and click the Start Course button to begin. By the end of the course, you will be able to answer: are the trip and the expenses allowable under policy? What expenses can be reimbursed? What documents need to be submitted for a trip or reimbursement? How do you calculate the correct amount to claim? And, are additional approvals needed for a trip? At the end of the course, you will be completing a final knowledge check. The test consists of 10 questions and 80% is required to pass the course. Let's begin. This section will cover general information and the State of Arizona Accounting Manual, the SAAM. Travel is governed by the State of Arizona Accounting Manual, SAAM, and applicable state and federal statutes and laws. This course reflects the most commonly used aspects of the topic, but is not intended to be a replacement for thorough review of the SAAM. It remains the responsibility of every traveler to review and adhere to all of the requirements of the SAAM. It is always wise to review the applicable sections of the SAAM prior to traveling. SAAM, the State of Arizona Accounting Manual, can be found at the GAO website under the Publications tab, shown in this image. Travel-related topics are grouped into Topic 50 in the SAAM. More information can be found at the listed website address, including a Did You Know resource for State of Arizona travelers. An activity resource is provided in the Resources section on the top right corner of this player window. This resource contains the links to these pages. Feel free to print this document for your future reference. Click on the SAAM Publications link, highlighted on your screen, to see a brief video demo locating SAAM on the GAO website. SAAM is divided into topics related to the various area of policy covered by the Accounting Manual. Travel-related policies are grouped into Topic 50. When you look at the table of contents on the SAAM webpage, you will see that the section titles are highlighted. If you click on Topic 50, it will take you directly to travel policy. Clicking on the sections will take you to more specific areas of the policy. Additional information can be found on the GAO travel page. Did you know? Should you encounter terms you are not familiar with, there is a glossary that is located in Topic 95, Section 5. A link directly to the glossary is available on the Table of Contents page of the SAAM. Questions about travel policy should first be directed to your supervisor and/or agency travel coordinator. GAO is also available to assist with policy questions. You can email policy questions to gaopolicy@azdoa.gov or gaotravel@azdoa.gov. State employees are stewards of the taxpayers' money. Therefore, it is important to minimize costs while still ensuring state employees have appropriate, safe, and reasonable accommodations when they must travel on state business. The State of Arizona's travel philosophy supports this goal. All travel must be for a valid public purpose. Travel must be business-related and conforming to the agency charter. Travel expenses incurred while conducting business for the State of Arizona are authorized, necessary, reasonable, and appropriate. Travel arrangements selected are the most cost-effective for the State of Arizona. What does cost-effective mean? Cost-effective means the lowest cost while still being safe and reasonable for the traveler. Examples of things to consider are: most economical practical transportation, shortest reasonable stay, most reasonably priced lodging, maximum use of meals provided by others, such as breakfast at the hotel or provided as part of a conference, fewest number of travelers. As a reminder, reimbursement is meant to cover the difference between being at home and being away. To be notified of any news related to travel, such as policy changes, rate changes, etc., register for updates on the GAO website. A video demo follows. On the home page of the GAO website, scroll down to the bottom of the screen. Under Register for Updates, select the Sign Up link. You will be taken to another page where you will enter your state of Arizona email address, your first and last name, your agency, found on the drop-down menu. Be sure to select e-newsletter, GAO e-newsletter. Fill in the characters shown in the image. Then select Sign Up. Up next, allowable and reimbursable. What is allowable? Generally, it must be for a valid public purpose. It must have a demonstrable benefit to the state, and travel must be planned for the convenience of the state. If these criteria are met, travel is typically allowed. The SAAM sets out the specific items that are reimbursable and the circumstances under which they can be claimed, as well as the maximum reimbursement rates. Some of the most common reimbursable items are lodging, meals, subject to some restrictions which we'll cover a little later, personal vehicle mileage, rental vehicles, local transportation such as cabs, buses, light rail, airport shuttles, airfare, other common carrier transportation such as trains and coaches. There are other items that may be reimbursable under certain conditions and with prior approval. For example, lodging above the per-night maximum reimbursable rate. Meals or lodging within a 50-mile radius of home and duty post. Meals satisfying certain dietary needs. See SAM Topic 50 Section 25 for more information. There are items that are not reimbursable. Some of these items are prepaid gasoline for a rental car, social events, such as those associated with conferences or conventions, alcohol, including associated taxes and tips, personal travel, gas when driving a personal vehicle. It is factored into the mileage rate. If you have a question about whether an expense is reimbursable and or under what conditions it is reimbursable, please check the appropriate subsection of SAM, Topic 50. You can also consult with your supervisor, agency travel coordinator, or contact GAO. This section reviews travel claims. Travel authorizations and travel claims are the primary forms you will deal with when traveling for the state of Arizona. A travel claim, Form GAO 503EZ, is the document you will submit to record the expenses you have incurred while traveling. Once approved, this document will be the record from which you are reimbursed for travel expenses you pay from your own funds, including your state-sponsored personal travel card, employee travel card, etc., provided the expenses are within policy and reimbursable. All requests for travel-related reimbursements must be submitted on a travel claim. Did you know? Forms can be found on the GAO website under Publications. Your agency may require you to use an agency-specific form. Please check with your supervisor, manager, agency travel coordinator, or agency policies and procedures. Next is information on travel authorizations. All travel must be authorized. Each trip needs the approval of your supervisor. Some trips require formal travel authorization and additional approvals before travel. Formal authorizations are required for out-of-state travel. Use Form GAO 509. Out-of-country travel. Use Form GAO 509. Anytime an exception to policy will be requested, such as a hotel rate that exceeds the maximum rate for that location, use Form GAO 515. Out-of-state trips with 3 or more travelers. Use Form GAO 509S. The travel authorization must be submitted prior to travel, in sufficient time to receive advantageous rates, and in time for approvals to be received prior to departure. Did you know? Best practice for submitting a travel authorization is as soon as you know the basic details of the trip, but at least 2 to 3 weeks in advance. The travel authorization requests approval for estimated expenses. The request should include quote for airfare or other common carrier, quote for hotel, if this is for a conference, the conference brochure, best estimate for meals and incidentals, estimates for any other likely expenses, such as parking, van service, baggage, etc. Your agency may require additional information or justifications. Be sure to check with your agency when completing a travel authorization. Because you are being reimbursed for actual expenses, receipts are required for many but not all reimbursable expenses. The most common required receipts are listed below. Airfare and all common carriers. Parking fees, if receipt is provided. Lodging. Car rental. Bridges and tolls. Communication expenses. Any individual expense of $75 or more. Generally, meal receipts do not need to be attached to your claim. You may be asked to produce them if any questions arise about your claim. Also important, some agencies have a more restrictive meal reimbursement policy and do require receipts. Check with your agency for your policies and procedures. Up next, expense reimbursement request deadlines. Expense reimbursement requests should be submitted within 5 days of return and must be submitted no more than 2 months after completion of travel. Once a claim is 3 months late, additional approvals will be required for reimbursement. Travel claims with late submission triggers additional approvals. All late travel expense reimbursement requests must include an explanation for being tardy. All delinquently filed travel claims must have a GAO 513 form completed, approved, and attached to the travel claim before being processed for reimbursement. Who must sign and approve the GAO 513 delinquently filed employee travel claim? If the expense reimbursement request is submitted more than 2 months but less than 3 months, the traveler and the traveler's supervisor or manager must sign the form. If it is submitted after 3 or more months, but less than 5 months, the traveler and the traveler's supervisor or manager and the traveler's agency head or CFO must sign the form. If it is submitted after 5 or more months, the traveler and the traveler's supervisor or manager and the traveler's agency head or CFO and the state comptroller or the deputy state comptroller must sign. Did you know? If your travel claim is not filed within 2 months, a completed GAO 513 is required for any reimbursement. Be aware, the later the claim, the more approvals are required. Please see Form GAO 513 for requirements. Travel approval routing. All travel should be approved by the traveler's supervisor. Travel documents may require additional levels of approval. This varies by agency. If you have questions regarding additional approvals for your travel document, check with your supervisor and/or agency travel coordinator. These exceptions generally require prior approval and are submitted for approval on a Form GAO 509 travel authorization, if out of state or country, and on a Form GAO 515 request for travel policy exception, if the state comptroller's approval is needed. See below for more information. The agency head or deputy agency head must approve out of state, if no other policy exceptions requested. The agency head or deputy agency head and state comptroller or deputy state comptroller must approve the following: out of state and other policy exceptions requested. Conference lodging that is greater than the brochure and applicable reimbursement rate. Meals and/or lodging within 50 miles of duty post or home. Meals and/or lodging greater than the maximum daily rates. Untimely travel claims, as previously described. Maximum reimbursement amounts. Some travel cost is limited to a maximum allowable per day. You can be reimbursed for actual expenses up to the maximum allowable reimbursement per day or partial day, whichever applies. You may see the term per diem used. This is not what most people think of when they hear per diem. It is not an allowance. Instead, it is the limit of what you can claim for an actual expense for certain categories within the reimbursement limits. Reimbursement rates are proposed and disseminated by ADOA, GAO but must be approved and adopted by the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, JLBC. Maximum reimbursement rates are determined by the location to which you are traveling and the time of year. Many locations have high and low season rates. Determining maximum reimbursement rates for meals requires additional consideration, which will be discussed later. This section will go over rates. Where to find lodging and meal rates. The reimbursement rates can be found in SAAM Topic 50, Section 95. When a city is not listed in the rate table, the rate for the county in which the city is located applies. If the county is also not listed, the default in-state and out-of-state rates apply. See SAAM Topic 50 Section 95 for more information. In-state versus out-of-state. Alaska, Hawaii, and out-of-country rates, all destinations that are outside of the continental United States, or CONUS, are not published in the rate guide, but can be obtained by using the link on the GAO website travel page or by visiting the Department of Defense. The link to the appropriate rate tables and how to apply them can be found in SAAM Topic 50, Section 95. The lodging-related items that can be reimbursed are lodging taxes, business communications, such as telephone, internet, and Wi-Fi charges. Things that are not reimbursable are liquor or other intoxicants, extra non-employee guest, movies, personal lodging, if you are extending your business trip for personal reasons. Lodging rates. Lodging can be reimbursed up to the maximum allowable reimbursement rate for the location of the lodging. Lodging rates vary by time of year. Be sure to check the correct date when looking for the correct rate. Lodging can be reimbursed up to the maximum allowable reimbursement rate for the location of the lodging. When booking lodging, the most economically reasonable option should be chosen. The maximum allowable reimbursement rate is computed using the room rate, sometimes referred to as the rack rate in SAAM, plus certain lodging provider imposed charges, but typically does not include taxes. Taxes and fees imposed by the government, federal, state, or local do not count in the maximum allowable reimbursement. It is recommended that you review SAAM and check with the lodging provider before booking travel to determine which fees and charges count against the maximum allowable rate. Other lodging charges, such as Wi-Fi or internet charges, are not included in the calculation of the base or rack rate, however they may be reimbursable subject to certain conditions and approvals. See SAAM Topic 50, Section 30 for more information. The following are not included in the calculation of the rack rate, but are eligible for reimbursement. Federal, state, local taxes, utility fees or surcharges, and, in some cases, parking fees. See SAAM for reference. Do include these charges in the calculation of the rack rate. Resort fee, only if non-discretionary. Health club charges, only if non-discretionary and, in some cases, parking fees. See SAAM Topic 50, Section 30 for further guidance. To be reimbursed for travel expenses, there are forms which must be completed and submitted. The travel forms and approvals will be provided on the next slides for your reference. This table lists what form is needed and whose approval is required for various types of travel. For out-of-state or out-of-country travel, the GAO 509 form is required, with the approval from your agency head or designee. Out-of-state trips with 3 or more travelers and/or trip greater than $5,000, the GAO 509S form is required, with the approval from your agency head or designee. For in-state travel, your supervisor must approve, however, your agency may also have additional approvals required. Check with your supervisor, agency travel coordinator, or agency policies and procedures for more information. If lodging is at or below the state rate, the approvals on the previous slide are sufficient. If the conference lodging is at or below the lowest published rate on the conference brochure or web page, the approvals on the previous slide are sufficient. If lodging exceeds the state rate or the lowest published conference rate, an exception is needed. Complete AGA 0515 and route through your agency. Approval will need to be obtained by your agency head or deputy agency head, CFO, and the state comptroller or deputy state comptroller to be eligible for the additional amount. Up next is the section on conference lodging. Conference lodging. Conference lodging rates are generally higher than those listed in SAAM 5095 for a given location, but lower than those rates that might otherwise be available due to the excess demand created by the conference. Conference rates can sell out quickly, so it is best to request authorization to travel as soon as you can, in order to take advantage of the conference rates. Under certain circumstances, conference lodging may be reimbursed at a higher rate than the published allowable rate for the lodging location. The conference lodging rate is the lowest published rate, not a list of nearby hotels. Not all conferences or meetings have conference rates. Only the lowest published rate is the approved conference rate regardless of availability. Documentation of the rate must be provided and maintained with your travel forms. It is expected that travelers will choose the lowest practicable lodging rate. This requires you to check for less expensive rates in conference hotels and hotels within reasonable walking distance of the conference. It may even be that the combination of a less expensive hotel that is farther away and the transportation to get to the conference may still be less than the rate at a conference hotel. Up next, meals and incidentals. Meals and incidentals are allowable expenses. The reimbursement is for actual expenses and is subject to limitations. The reimbursement rates are found in SAAM Topic 50, Section 95 and are the maximum you are allowed to claim. What you claim should be the lesser of your actual expense or the maximum allowable rate. The published rates are for a complete day and are based on destination. The full day rates may be reduced in certain circumstances. Keep in mind, first and last day travel is calculated at 75% of the full day rate. For example, the first and last day maximum allowable reimbursement for a destination with a full day rate of $54 is $40.50. More on this in a few minutes. The maximum reimbursement for same day travel is a set amount. The maximum allowable rates per day also include tips, transportation to meals, and incidentals such as tips for maid service at the hotel. Meal reimbursements may not cover the entire cost of your meals. They are not so designed. Remember that reimbursement is intended to cover the difference between what you would normally spend at home and what you spend on the road. These amounts may be spent on any combination of breakfast, lunch, and/or dinner. The key is that you can only be reimbursed up to the maximum allowable reimbursement for that day. In the example shown, meals and incidentals total combined to $80, but the maximum allowable for the destination is $54. Meals and incidentals above the maximum daily reimbursement are not reimbursed. It is important to regulate your spending so that you are not out of pocket for expenses. Did you know? When the meal has been provided, for example, when the hotel provides a breakfast or meals are provided at a conference, you are not eligible for reimbursement for that meal. Your daily maximum allowable rate will be reduced by an appropriate amount for the provided meal. See SAAM Topic 50, Section 95 for rates and the prorated allocation per meal. Meals and incidentals, provided meal example. In our example, lunch is provided by the conference you are attending. If the maximum allowable reimbursement for the full day is $54 per the table, lunch allotment is $14. Remaining balance for reimbursement $54 minus $14 equals $40. The remaining $40 can be used for breakfast and dinner, and it doesn't have to be split out according to any percentage. You could spend $30 on a sumptuous breakfast and have potato chips and a candy bar for dinner. You can be reimbursed for actual expenses for breakfast and dinner totaling up to $40. If a traveler purchases a meal instead of accepting a provided meal, they will not be eligible for reimbursement for that meal, regardless if there is still a balance remaining between actual and allowable expenses for the remaining daily amount. This section will go over first and last day travel. Let's talk about what happens with meals on the first and last day of travel. The state of Arizona reduces first and last day meal reimbursement limits to 75% of the maximum allowable daily rate. This reduction takes into consideration that you may not be in travel status for the entire day on the first or last day of travel. As mentioned previously, the reimbursement rates for first day, outbound, and last day, inbound, travel on a trip with an overnight stay are restricted to 75% of the maximum allowable reimbursement rate for a full day. In this example, the traveler goes on a 3-day trip, departing in the morning on the first day and returning by dinner on the last day. You attend a conference in San Diego, leaving from Phoenix on Monday at 7 a.m. and returning on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Because of the early flight, you eat breakfast at the airport on Monday. You are home in time for dinner on Wednesday. The conference hotel provides breakfast. The next slide breaks down the maximum allowable, actual amount spent, and the claim amounts. This next slide provides an example of calculating the meals and incidental rates and claim amounts on a trip. Note that the amounts provided are for example purposes only. Rates are updated annually and users should review SAAM 5095 for current rates. In our example, the maximum allowable full-day rate for San Diego is $54. The available reimbursement for Monday and Wednesday is $40.50, 75% of $54. The reimbursement limit will be reduced on Tuesday and Wednesday because the hotel provides breakfast. The maximum allowable under these circumstances are Monday $40.50, Tuesday $43, Wednesday $29.50. You would enter the lesser of the maximum allowable or your actual expenses in the claimed amount field. Claim amounts would be as follows. Monday $35, Tuesday $43, Wednesday $21. This gives you the basics about claiming overnight meals, but these important points are not all inclusive. Please refer to the SAAM Topic 50, Section 25 for additional information. Travel status. To be eligible for meal reimbursement, the meal must be consumed while in travel status. Defining travel status. To be in travel status, the traveler must be more than 50 miles from both the traveler's residence and regular duty post. For travel involving a common carrier, i.e., airplane, travel status is deemed to begin 2 hours before the scheduled departure or the time of arrival at the terminal, whichever is later, even if not more than 50 miles from home and duty post. See the definition of travel status in the SAAM glossary. Next section is same-day meals overview. Same-day meals are handled differently than overnight meals. There are 2 same-day meal rates depending on the length of time and travel status. See SAAM 5095 for the current maximum single-day and extended-day meal reimbursement limits. Again, these are maximum allowable reimbursement rates. The amount to claim is your actual expense. To be eligible for same-day meals, you must be in travel status for at least 6 hours and you must be further than 50 miles from your duty post in your home. Please see SAAM Topic 50,